robotics, AI, IoT, and automation to make in India. I'm pleased to welcome on stage our session chairman, Dr. Jitendra Das, Director for School of Management, and our speakers, Mr. Harish Mehra, Global Head and Industry Advisor, Industry 4.0, Tata Consultancy Services Limited, Mr. Prabhakar Chaudhary, Managing Director, HAL Robotics, Mr. Kush Mishra, Chief Technology Officer, Senra.
A very good afternoon to you all, and welcome to the third session of this one-day event. This is titled Role of Robotics, AI and Automation to Make in India. We have with us very eminent panelists, speakers. They are the dons in their own domain, the domain expert. In Mr. Harish Mehra, he's the Business and Solutions Head, Industry 4.0, Internet of Things at TCS. And he has been involved with things like smart manufacturing, solution space, and things in that direction. He's done a lot of things using Internet of Things, particularly in smart manufacturing service line. He has over 25 years of business management and consulting experience in plant automation, supply chain and manufacturing IT solutions across various industries and domains. He holds a senior management certification course from IIM Calcutta and a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from the Faculty of Engineering, Dayal Educational Institute, Agra. Please welcome him with a round of applause. We also have with us Mr. Kush Mishra. He is the Chief Technology Officer in Senra. He is an alumni, normally you say alumnus. The alumni is the wrong word here. He is the alumnus of IIT Roorkee 2009 batch and from ISB Hyderabad 2016. And he has over seven years of strong experience in product engineering and management. He has a rich exposure in hardware systems design, embedded software, IoT, M2M systems architecture, LE Bluetooth. I have heard of Bluetooth, but LE maybe tell us. Oh, okay. And wireless protocols, GSM, GPS, RTOS, LoRa, Python scripting, product management, business strategy, and marketing. Let's welcome him with a round of applause. And we also have with us Mr. Prabhakar Chaudhary. He is the Managing Director of HAL Robotics. It's pronounced Hull Robotics. He is in this field with a specific focus on IoT, AI, and robotics, and creating thinking machines. Mr. Chaudhary is responsible for the everyday functioning of HAL. MDs are supposed to do that, whilst also charting out the successful road to scaling up and success. Completing his engineering and information sciences from the University of Delhi in the year 2002, Mr. Chaudhary has spent about 16 years in the technology domain. He has built numerous IP products, enterprise applications, and LED business unit. Let's also welcome him with a round of applause. And a little brief about me. I'm Jitendra Das. Currently, I'm Director of Ford School of Management since 2010. So that makes me about 8.5 years, slightly more than that, as Director of this institute. Before this, I was a Professor of Marketing at IIM Lucknow, and also the Founder Dean of the Noida campus of IIM Lucknow. I was the guy identified by the IIM Lucknow to be picked up and sent out to Noida. Should anything go wrong, we know whom to blame, but things worked out well. So I had very good, rich experience in handling things from the academic administration perspective. In terms of my academic background, we normally talk about it being a professor. They always talk about it. So will not be out of place. I have a bachelor's in engineering, chemical engineering from IIT Delhi, 1979 pass out. I don't know how many would be here in that age group. And then I worked in the industry, particularly in the urea plant on the shop floor, because I was a chemical engineer. Didn't like the industry outfit here. So I wanted to do management, and among options, finally I ended up doing masters in systems and management at IIT Delhi because it was something to do with technology, and I had a liking for that kind of subject. After that, I joined Wipro Information Technology Limited in sales and marketing, which I found very exciting and interesting, more than the technology domain, because I felt a little bored when you do the tech job, and more exciting when you do a marketing job. So I enjoyed being with them, and then I shifted to academics way back in 1987, and then after being in academics for a couple of years, I didn't have a PhD at that point of time, so since I decided to stay on in academics, I had to do a PhD, and fortunately I got admission in the University of Toronto, Canada. So I did my PhD, came back to India. Then I joined IIM Lucknow and became a professor of marketing there, and then Ford School of Management. So I have been in academics since then. And professors love to talk about anything and everything given an opportunity, especially someone who's taught for many years. Here we have an excellent set of panelists with us to share their views on this particular theme, which is robotics and artificial intelligence. The session has an emphasis on Make in India. And we all understand the emphasis the government of India has given to Make in India. And the way I see it is more to do with employment generation and the FDI, the foreign investment that must be made in India to make the country more robust than what it was in general otherwise. Now, when the Make in India starts happening, you need to look at the global perspective, because the Make in India essentially is in a global perspective, not in purely an Indian perspective. And the one country that comes to your mind is China. China traditionally has been known to be an important location for manufacturing, and that's how the China's reform kicked in a lot of money into China, and that's how they are where they are today, with a per capita income which is, I think, 9 times that of India. In 1947, they were half of India in terms of per capita income. And today they are 9 times of the Indian per capita income. So that gives you an idea of how much of economic improvement China has been able to attain. But there is a silver line to this today. It is being said that the Chinese population is an aging population, and so therefore their manufacturing USP is on the wane. It's going down. So therefore, this is a brilliant chance for India to catch up and reach the international level and cash on to this. But the China is not lying low, so they know that they have an aging population, which would translate into less number of labor force available in the manufacturing unit. So what they are doing, they are full force into robotics and AI. So it has been predicted that by year 2025, the China would overtake US and rest of the world in terms of the robotics and AI implementation in manufacturing. So they may have less number of workforce, but they'll be at par in terms of manufacturing, in terms of volume and things like that. So as a country, India, we need to take note of this and figure out how do we handle this kind of a new competition, which would kind of, unsettle your entire Make in India initiative that you're trying to make. And if you look into the data in terms of how much of money investment in R&D and the other associated technologies, development and research the China is putting into, we are nowhere near it. I mean, we are a minuscule fraction of amount of money which China has put into the research and implementation of robotics into their manufacturing process. So we have a target which seems impossible to reach in the next 5 years at least as a country, India. So we need to take a serious look at this as to how do we handle this. If we keep focusing on Make in India as a labor-intensive thing, you'll be out of reckoning in no time. Because if you have robotics in manufacturing, the fundamental gain that you have is the quality of production and the quantity of production. So which means per unit cost would be low at a higher quality, and then you're out of the market. So we need to take a look at this very seriously. And one of the important things, since our topic is in robotics and AI. One of the things that happens when you deploy these technology in manufacturing, and traditionally India has been in the domain of giving employment to a lot of people, factories and all that. So the number of jobs is likely to go down. So it's also being predicted with more robotics going to the manufacturing, and the way technology is changing, and you deploy all the technology into manufacturing, your jobs will go down. But my take is, and of course a lot of other people also think like that actually jobs will not reduce to that extent overall. There will be a shift in the job profile. And we have a very good example of computerization that happened in India. I was in Delhi around that time, and I've seen rallies on the streets against computerization in railways. Those in my age group would be able to recollect, and the kind of political rallies and protests and violence that happened in a place like Delhi against computerization railways, saying that this is going to take away our jobs and we need to stop computerization. And rest is history. So likewise, when the robotics and the AI gets into the manufacturing, I'm sure we'll have more jobs to come in, not in terms of fitting a nut and bolt into a machine, but into something else. So we need to also take cognizance of this kind of a thing. And one or two things which strike in my mind when we are looking at how the technology is changing, I'm sure the experts will give you more idea. But from a user point of view, a few things that is changing the way we are looking at things is one of the things is called, we are familiar with the apps in our phones. So now it's being said that, and with some point was raised in our informal meeting, the apps would become intelligent. So apps, what you download, would not be the same app after a certain period of time, after the app has noticed how you're using the particular app, and app will reform itself. And how would that be impacting your, not only your personal activities, but the industrial activity that we need to be looking at very carefully. Another thing which is important in the way things are happening, we are familiar with terms like IoT, Internet of Things. But what is being talked of now is intelligent things. That means things become intelligent on their own. There was a debate, there was actually a high-powered discussion in United Nations to prevent autonomous weapons to be deployed. Now, autonomous weapons means you fire the weapon and the weapon knows whom to shoot. So this weapon will be now hunting for that guy or device or target or wherever, and then this will destroy. So this is the technology which is almost there. Actually, it is there. So UN wanted to enact a global policy on this to prevent this from being deployed by countries, because if that weapon malfunctions, then you don't know who will get shot, right? So that's this bad part of it. But look at the useful part of it. Just to give you an example, you may have let's say a tractor, at home. You're a farmer, you have a tractor, it's parked in your garage, and then tractor on its own starts up, gets out, goes to the field, plows the land, comes back and gets itself parked into the garage. That's an autonomous garage. So autonomous tractor. So tractor is intelligent enough. So this is slightly radically different from the IoT that we're talking of. So it's like, intelligent things. And then, you can now figure out where all these kinds of things can get into our day-to-day life and operations. Things like, you may have heard of things like digital twin. Digital twin is, on a digital platform, you have a replica of a real thing. Like, for example, the IoT into your refrigerator is a IoT device in your refrigerator. We call this an IoT. You may have a replica of the entire fridge in your, let's say, on your screen, on your phone or wherever, and it has all record. Everything is being tracked and looked at, and it takes action. It can get connected to a service agent if something is malfunctioning, and you do things. So it's called digital twin, which is also being talked of very actively. And things like conversational platforms that we're familiar with, Google and Amazon having these smart assistants, and you can actually talk to them. And a lot of jokes came out of these kinds of things that has happened. But there's some alarming things that also happened. You might have heard about the Facebook who tried to develop a chatbot, and they had two chatbots converse with each other. They were made to negotiate a particular business deal. And they had to stop this chat box negotiation literally physically, because they found that these two chat box had invented their own language, and they were instructed to communicate in English language to negotiate, and the researchers were tracking the conversation to understand how these two intelligent beings, AI chatbot 1, AI chatbot 2, are negotiating. And then they found out that these guys ended up inventing their own language, and they're communicating and striking a deal. So they got kind of a bit scary, and they stopped the whole thing, and the whole thing is under review. So that's how things are changing in the world. I would not want to talk more about it, but quickly, we are familiar with virtual reality. Some of you in Delhi particularly would have experienced, go to a mall, you pay what, I think $50, 50 rupees or 200, 300 rupees. You sit in that box and give you that thing on your head and eyes, and you enjoy, VR. We are also talking of AR, augmented reality, which is is slightly more than VR. So you are active, you are doing something. This is augmented reality. Now we are moving further up, and now the term that is being used is mixed reality, MR, where like for example, the Google Glass you have, you see a person, and the Google Glass tells you Mr. Chaturvedi and his profile and everything, and then you interact. When you're interacting, the Google is also advising you, don't ask him questions pertaining to religion. He's this kind of person, so stay away. But you talk to him about robotics, he's a nice guy, and so you change your conversation. So that's a mixed reality kind of thing which is happening. So I don't know how, where the world will go, how much we'll do ourselves, and how much the machine will tell us to do. Only time will tell. But now I'd like to invite our learned speakers. I'll go in the sequence which is given here. We'll have Mr. Harish Mehra, and I'll request each speaker to take about 10 minutes time, and then we'll have time for some kind of a Q&A with the audience. So over to Mr. Mehra.
Thank you, Mr. Das. Thanks, CII, for setting this stage and giving opportunity to share these thoughts. Mr. Das has already taken a lot of thunder out of this session, which is talking about digitalization. But let me put some structure to this thought. See, we all are hearing the digital transformation and its associated impact in manufacturing or in business. So if you see, we broadly can group them into two different waves, wave 1 and wave 2. Wave 1 is more focused on consumers. It is consumer to consumers, or to some extent business to consumers. The disruption which has come in the form of things which Mr. Das mentioned, whether it is augmented reality or 3D printing or artificial intelligence or building digital twins and other things, is because it has started impacting B2B environment, business to business environment. And the adaptation, the disruption is, which is digital disruption here, is so disruptive in nature that the adaptation has to be thought of. Otherwise, it's difficult to compete in this marketplace, because the benefits which are, it may be smaller, but it needs to be done immediately, because change is just waiting to come, and in a global environment, it just leaves you in a corner where people will be able to produce things in a better quality, at a lower cost, at a higher pace. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mehra. That was a good take on robotics and AI put together. We all are familiar with Murphy's Law. If anything were to go wrong, it will go wrong at the nick of time. So we are held up for some technical issues here. In the meanwhile, I would like to now invite Mr. Prabhakar Chaudhary to share his views for about 10 minutes.
Yes,
Mr. Chaudhary? Yeah?
Yeah, so I can speak here. Okay, sounds good. Okay. So many a times, I mean, still today, a lot of us, when we think of robotics, artificial intelligence, we associate it with a wild animal. We would love to admire it in a zoo, but are scared to bring it at home. And a lot of this is because the way things have been projected to us. A lot of concerns Dr. Das shared which has gone wrong in the field of advancement, where chatbots started doing things on their own. But these are part of evolution. These are not the commercial deployments. When commercial deployments of robotics and IoT is happening, there are a lot of bodies there are a set of protocols that needs to be followed. So one of the things that all of us need to really understand at the is go to the depth of it and understand the benefits and the risks involved. So basically a detailed analysis needs to be done, and I think the more we would get closer to these technologies, we would, if not 100%. So talent-wise, it's not that we don't have the talent. The problem is we don't have the right ecosystems. I was researching on drones lately, and one of the finest papers that came across in this space was from a scientist in Mumbai who is working for NASA. The finest paper I came across on the drone ecosystem. So another thing is that the institutions of this of our country, they have to work together in terms of the academics, the government, the industry bodies, and these emerging companies. They will have to work together to create an ecosystem where the adoption and the building of nations' IP starts to come out. Yeah, so pretty much that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. While listening to him, he was talking of cost implication because of AI robotics coming in and emphasis on manufacturing. I just got reminded of one example I read a long time back. It's on the cost. For example, the amount of light we have in this hall, the lumix, the intensity of light that we have here, if we wanted to have the same light in year 1850, it would have cost us 400 times more. So the cost of having a light has come down 400 times from 1850 to the current time. And this improvement in cost has come because of technology. So likewise, as the technology goes into our day-to-day life and anything and everything that we do, the cost is going to go down drastically. For example, when I was studying abroad, a phone call to my parent used to cost me 20 rupees a minute in Indian currency. 20 rupees a minute. You would be familiar with this. Today, cost is zero. You have a WhatsApp, Skype, not only audio call, you can do a video call, zero cost. This is where it has come down to. Now project this to another 20 years. What is likely to happen? What are the things which will cost you and what are the things will be having no cost to you? So I don't know to go into what will happen, but put your mind to this, and that's how the world is going to change. We are all familiar with this robot called Sophia, right? So it's human-like, talks, engages you in conversation. And I'm also able to recollect a movie called Artificial Intelligence by Steven Spielberg. If you have not seen that movie, if you have interest in robotics and AI, please, my recommendation is dig that movie out. It's there, freely available now, I think. Watch that movie. It's very interesting to see how the robots have taken over the society and what is happening to the world, okay? And there's a lot of sentimental emotions packed into this. This was actually a Super 8 movie. I think it came in year 2003, 2004, around that time. So I love these kinds of stuff, so I watched it twice. So watch that and have a broad understanding of where we might be heading to. We have a hotel in Singapore. I was actually staying there, and this guy, I ordered some drinks, in this, I guess. So when I called the room service, they said, "Sir, you want the drink to be served in person, or we want you to send a robot to your room?" I said, "What?" I said, "We will send you the drink using a robot." And I looked at my friend. He said, "Robo." So we said, "Okay, a robo." And you know what? In about 8 minutes' time, there was a ring on my door, And this I'm staying, it's a first-hand experience. And the ring goes, and I open the door. There's a trolley with a head kind of a thing, like the R2, that Star Wars, that robot, no, the dome kind of thing is there, and it speaks, says, please open the top. Okay, I said, okay. So you just lift it, and you have the ring there. So it comes inside the room. It comes inside the room. For instance, let me in, please. So I said, oh, okay, you go. And then they said, open the top, and you have the rings there. Lift the top, and once you have lifted, this knows that you have lifted. Says that I have kindly close it. Thank you. Have a nice ring, and goes back. And the door was shut, so this guy says, kindly open the door. So you open the door. So you saved one manpower, but then that's unemployment. But you need more robotics engineers there. And slightly on the side, I've heard people correcting others, damn it, don't call it robot, it's called robo, right? So I had like what? And then, you did some, read here and there. So don't be afraid of using the word robo or using the word robot with a T. British call it robo, Americans call it robot. So depending on where you have more affinity, you may want to use the word. Likewise, slightly on the lighter side, in India, we are very familiar with the buffet dinner, buffet. And I've heard people saying buffet dinner. I said, like what? Like, am I wrong? And is he wrong? And you can do a search these days very easily. So buffet is American style, buffet is British style. So depending on what you are, use the word robo or robot. Now let's quickly move over to our Mr. Mishra. Are you ready?
Okay, perfect. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kush. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Sinra. And thank you, Mr. Das, for the lovely introduction all the way from buffets to
I was
robotics.
Time, so I was not very sure.
So
yours, okay.
Good diversity of information, right? So I'm a techie. I'm going to talk more about the technology aspects at AI, automation, and robotics. I have a 4-point agenda, basically. So who we are, what we do, who Sinra is, how the technology is now touching human lives, how these fancy buzzwords actually affect a human life, how against cellular and local LANs. The device ecosystem is going to bulge for IoT. This means a lot of data coming in, a lot of scope for AI and automation. And with that, I'd just like to conclude and leave you with that thought. So I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mishra. Questions? You come here, please. We are actually running out of time, and we have been instructed we don't have time for questions. So we really need to close this. So we have had these the 3 learned speakers share their views on the robotics, AI, and these automation and how to help make in India. So, it's like, all I can say is we are aware that these technologies are getting into anything and everything. So you must stay tuned. Stay tuned to know what is happening if you are a user, and you need to keep looking forward if you are part of the developer or a manufacturer. The one biggest fallout of this is, in terms of humans, individuals getting monitored. So AI and robotics is being used to monitor human beings. So not only manufacturing, go into your day-to-day life, and we have already heard the story of Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, and you should also be aware of the social profiling being done by China, where the individuals are being rated, and if you are not a good guy, socially speaking, you would not be allowed to board an aircraft, things like that. So that's happening, and there was a book which we studied as our students, which is a mandatory compulsory book, called The Brave New World, in which this is 1984, it was predicted in that book, mid-50s or 60s it was written, that by 1984 world will be like that. But actually in 2020, the world is heading towards that, and in that book it said that there is a big brother watching you. The catch line was big brother watching you, so there is nothing called secrecy. Everything is known, everybody is aware, so operate accordingly. And if social profiling being done in India, done in China, You may want to say no to this, but the technology can be so overpowering, you may not escape this. So thank you very much for being with us this afternoon, and we would not want to hold you further between this session and the lunch. So thank you once again. And let's give a hand to our learned panelists who are here. Yeah? Thank you.